I didn't have to audition for the series. We had already developed a shorthand, very much in the style of The Chosen, of me playing Jesus, and him testing out these different relationships with the disciples, seeing the disciples do things like arm wrestle, and the first Jesus joke, it's like I think Andrew and Philip are arm wrestling, and I think Andrew wins, and Nathaniel's like, I didn't expect him to win, and then Jesus says, even I didn't see that coming. and when we screened that film, it was like, whoa, there's a Jesus joke, and people didn't like, what the, how dare you? Jesus never laughed. Ah! Be surprised what people think about our Lord. They're like, no, he didn't laugh, he didn't smile, he didn't do anything. Wait, was he human? Yes, but he didn't do those things. Well, I don't know how you get through life as a human and not do those things at least once in your life.
Let me ask you, but that's a really good point. We all think we know or feel The Chosen is very popular. Why does Jonathan Roumie think The Chosen is so popular?
I think because we endeavored to explore the humanity of these historical figures that we're often used to seeing depicted in stained glass, or as icons, or as martyrs, which they were, and which they deserve to be honored in that way. But we often don't spend time contemplating their day-to-day life. But they were human, so they had them. They lived them. And so we sort of I like to think of it as an Ignatian approach to the story of the disciples and Jesus, and like, well, what would it be like to be an apostle? What would it be like to be with 11 other guys, or in my case, as Jesus, 12 other guys for 2-3 years? I mean, that must get tedious at times, even for Jesus. He's like, oh, not again with these guys, traveling with 12 guys, that's a handful. People have, and they weren't perfect people. We know that they had their own weaknesses, and just the little sketches that we read about them in the scriptures tells us that everybody was picked for a specific reason. They had their flaws. They weren't perfect. And that was who Jesus, chose to start the church. And so I think as a church we have to remember, well, we started as a bunch of flawed individuals, and we're going to see that, I think, until the end of time in church. But how much grace are we given by God, and how much grace do we have to give each other? And how much more are we called to be forgiving and compassionate and loving? And turning the other cheek even when it, fractures our pride to do so. So I think seeing these characters, to answer your question, in the way that we're able to show them in this long form style of filmmaking, of storytelling, is what endears the characters to people in a way that they've never seen before. And with Jesus especially, we've never seen his humanity displayed or depicted or portrayed at such great length with such minute details.
With that said, what's it like now in real life when people approach you?
Oh boy. Well, the first thing is that it's always extremely humbling for me. I'm an introvert by nature, and I think actors kind of fall into two categories with minor subdivisions. You're an introvert, or you're an extrovert. Or you're an extrovert with a little bit of introvert, or you're an introvert with a little bit of extrovert, or you're a full introvert. So I'm mostly an introvert. I think the extrovert part is what allows me to sit here and talk to you guys. Otherwise, I wouldn't be doing this at all, because I'd be like, they say it's public speaking is feared just ahead of death. I think when if you ask somebody, what would they rather do? Would they rather die or get up on stage? I'd rather die. Thank you. I prefer that. That's much easier. I'm a little bit okay with being on stage, so that's I think what allows me to do this. But meeting people, it's super humbling because it's not just a traditional celebrity kind of encounter. It's usually, I love the show and let me tell you why, and what has happened in my life, and what has happened in my marriage, and what has happened in my spiritual life and my relationship with Christ. I didn't have one and now I have one. Or I hadn't been to church in 20 years and now I'm going to church. Or I would, yeah. Or even in other cases, like I was a Southern Baptist and I was always curious about the rosary, and then I started praying the rosary with you online, and now I'm an RCIA. I just marvel that God put me in this position and not somebody else, because I feel so ill-equipped to be here doing this and even talking to you guys. It's like, man, I just feel so humbled.